This is Channel 253.
On this episode of the Grit and Grain podcast.
There's a lot of really great brewers right now who are unemployed, and nobody wants to see that, right? So it's really felt like while we're all in competition with each other in some way, on the raw ingredient side at least, there's a lot of talk and a lot of collaboration between companies, because we definitely have a vested interest in ensuring that all these brewers stay open and alive and healthy in the long run, even if we're in a little bit of a downturn right now.
Sure. Channel 253 is member supported. I'm producer Doug Mackey, and I hope you will show your support by going to channel253.com/membership and join. Thank you.
Welcome to the Grit and Grain podcast, where we explore and celebrate the craft beer industry, community, and history in Tacoma, Washington, and surrounding Pacific Northwest areas. Thank you so much for hanging out. Let's get to it. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Grit and Grain podcast, coming to you guys not from Peaks and Pints, but from the Craft Brewers Conference in SeaTac. Yeah.
Having some more of that mild, are you?
I am.
That's good stuff.
My name is Matt McLaren. I'm here as always with Ron Swarner.
Hello.
What's going on, Ron?
Just living the Grit and Grain roadshow life.
I know, man. Two on-location recordings in a week is pretty awesome. Feels so official getting invited to something like this. Bethany, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Very good. And Doug's hanging out on mic. And
Indeed.
Of course, making us sound wonderful.
Best I can.
Yeah, so we're, like I said, we're at the Craft Brewers Conference, and this is actually, this is really cool. So this has actually happened, so we were just at Brewallop, and this event actually used to be tied to Brewallop previously. So Brewallop actually was kind of born from this conference happening at the Mattress Firm Showplex, and now it's actually been moved up to the DoubleTree up in SeaTac, very central, super official. There's whole showroom, which we're hanging out in the middle of, and there's talks going on. I think there's a cheese talk going on right now by our buddy Ricky.
Yeah, we're totally losing that battle.
Yeah. And hey, we have a cool guest. What's up?
Lost track of time. I'm so sorry.
That's totally fine. You're busy. I can't even believe you're making time for us.
Busy. Yeah. Working, hardly working? Working hard, hardly working?
Probably both.
I don't know.
I think you're working hard.
I think you're working pretty hard. I don't think anybody would disagree.
Did you enter stage left or stage right?
Stage left.
Yeah, good call.
Stage left.
So hopefully you guys are, if you guys don't recognize this voice, this is Shawna Cormier hanging out. And we have Shawna hanging out for the first part of this podcast because this is actually her jam this year. Shawna is the director of events for the Washington Brewers Guild, and this is a Washington Brewers Guild event, so this is her shit. How are you today?
Everything's great.
Yeah?
Honestly, it's so funny. Even when things got a little hairy, very minimal things, little wrinkles here and there, but when they're not wrinkly, you're like, uh-oh, the tidal wave's coming.
Yeah. It's like things are going so well you don't trust it.
Yeah, I'm like, something's bound to.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna break my leg.
Well, it is SeaTac.
Or it is SeaTac. Yeah, someone did get jumped last night, so.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh. He's
Not
okay.
from here?
Okay. He's okay. Yeah.
Okay,
He'll
good.
be fine.
We have a buddy system out to our cars.
I think maybe I shouldn't be talking about that.
I know.
Yikes, cut that, please.
He broke his hand.
We know it was Dempster. You can just say it.
Yeah.
He broke his hand and he went
If
home
Dempster
today
came
with-
to the summit, I would be so proud.
Yes.
That's a hard man to win over.
That is true.
If you're listening to this, you better come to next summit, Dempster.
He said he listens, so he might hear that.
I know he listens.
Speaking of proud, thank you so much for inviting us, because we are also very proud to be here.
Please, every year you should be here. I think it's such a fun. I love you guys.
Thank you so much.
Obviously,
That's very nice.
And we need. This is part of what should be. It's community, and it's funny, and it's entertaining, and it's building relationships. All
industry
the things.
insider info for folks.
Exactly, and that too. That's
totally.
a better elevator speech.
When you were doing theater back in the day, did you ever direct? Or were you just acting?
I did in undergrad. I had to take a class on directing, and it was fun. Not really. Funny thing, I married my husband. We met going to grad school at MFA in acting, me, MFA in directing, him. Dynamic duo. But he never directed me in anything.
Oh, man.
He tried.
Probably for the best.
Yeah. Could you imagine? No.
But he tried.
No.
Well, you
We did
put
do-
on a hell of a show.
Good
my
tie-in,
God. I
Ron.
knew you were gonna have so many good things to say. It's funny how like entertainment background like helps with events. That's all. It's what it is.
Does it? Do you feel like that? Do you feel like you're more
Production.
comfortable doing this kind of thing because of that?
I think so. It feels some of it's like stage management,
Okay.
which I wouldn't say is my passion.
Sure.
I like as I like
Yeah.
do my jacket very like professionally. But like I think it's like thinking about how people their experience, right? It's
Sure.
different than acting. You're just pretending to be another person.
Sure.
So I guess directing would be more of what I'm doing because you're
Yeah,
like
exactly.
thinking about all the pieces.
That's funny. I've never actually thought about that as like the difference. One of those is like personal experience, and then one of those is like user experience. So
Yeah.
like if you're a director, you're doing stage management, you're thinking about how the audience is consuming whatever your work is, and that is very much how I would imagine successful event organizers create good events.
Yeah,
is
'cause
like here's the user interface, like here's the user experience. That's the
Exactly, like an
priority.
attendee experience.
Totally.
Because I've been to things before and been like, I didn't like that, or I loved that.
Right.
But like as an actor, if we're using the metaphor, it's like you shouldn't be thinking about what the audience is thinking. Everyone does it. But
Yeah.
like if you're truly in the moment and you're really in it, like
Yeah.
you're just that person in that situation.
Right.
But I always found myself always kind of thinking about the audience.
Nice.
Which is probably just ADHD, just not being able to focus.
Can't just focus on myself for
Yeah.
for this 4-minute monologue.
Yeah. Too much, way too much. There should be more. Next year, I'm going to add soliloquies. I think that there should be a booth where someone goes and they can just do either listen to a soliloquy or do a soliloquy
The spotlight.
That's true.
with a
yeah.
spotlight.
The
Dude, it
spotlight
actually
booth.
would probably be successful.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know.
Speaking of soliloquies, not that they really count in that category, but you guys are doing all kinds of wonderful talks this year.
That was a
and
good segue.
That's See, I even know
That
what
was
that
a
word
very
means.
good segue.
But yeah, we're actually competing. I was just saying we're competing right now with Ricky's cheese talk. I think.
Oh no, they're at 4:15.
Oh, they're at 4. Okay.
So you're not.
Oh.
Thank.
Oh no, we're not. Wait, are we?
I thought
3.
they were. It's at 3.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then
Who organized
Stacy.
this thing?
I know, right?
Oh god.
The giant
That's the
hook.
stage manager's job.
I know.
I better call her then.
Get the hook or the ovation.
If it's at 4:15, then we definitely won't miss it. And then I think Stacy's doing DIY HR. She
Yeah,
said,
they're
which
so-
is amazing.
I'm so proud of the sessions. There's
Yeah.
so many good people came from out of town.
I love that,
Our keynote, Dr. J. What a dream.
dude. You've done a fantastic job.
Thank you.
This
But
is
it's also
awesome.
people who are like, that's hard work to sign up to be a speaker and like commit to the time and
Yeah.
like the exhibitors who are here and like it's a lot.
Yeah, totally.
So it's like it's cool to see people that love this community and you know what we do so much that they're like giving their time and expertise.
I love that.
So thanks to you too.
Totally. I have felt pretty gassed up for the few hours I've been here.
Have you?
Yeah, because like you run into people like this is the group of people who like listens to us. I think the most
This is the
consistently.
key demographic.
Yeah,
is
yeah.
this
Just
space.
these people who own like this is the only group of people who know all the names that we reference and don't explain them and shit like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like talking like it's very nice to like see all those people in one place and
Yeah.
my head will be very big by the time I leave.
We
this
met
building,
we
I'm
met
sure.
Brian from Link Malt.
Oh yeah.
He's been on this podcast 30 times.
I mentioned.
Not yet.
Yeah, he might be the person who we've mentioned the most on this thing, but I've never had him on.
That's
so
so
Ron's
funny.
Ron's job before
Let's
we
go
leave is
grab
to,
him. Where is he? He's around here.
talk him
He is,
into
yeah,
it.
he's-
Yeah.
He just came up. He's like, "I'm Brian from Link." I was like, "You're Brian
You're the
from
Brian?
Link?
Yeah.
You were Brian?"
He's like a
Talk
legend.
about you all
Link?
the time.
That's so
Bring on the
funny.
spotlight.
Yeah.
Yeah, he should walk around with his own spotlight.
He invited us to the seed
The,
harvest.
He invited us out to
I don't know.
Spokane for the entire month of June.
I've heard from April until
All right,
August.
Doug,
we were
working overtime in
invited.
June.
It's great. Spokane's great in June.
Yeah, dude. It's gonna be hot as shit. It's gonna be great.
He's doing a bunch of events or something.
Yeah.
Well, field trip.
Field trip.
Field trip.
So I mentioned at the beginning that this event used to happen down in Puyallup, and it was tied to Brewer, where we were just recording on Saturday. And this is the first year it's been up in SeaTac. Is that
Yes.
right?
Yes,
and
correct.
It's also the first year you've ran this event yourself.
This is
that
my
right?
second year.
Second year,
Last
okay.
year, I was pretty new.
Okay.
And I'd never been to the summit. And so I was just kind of like, oh.
Yeah.
There's only 2 of us on staff, so it's Daniel and I.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of like learning as I go.
Sure.
which is good and bad because you have a lot of excuses. You're like,
That's true.
I don't know, it's my first time.
I'm new here. Yeah.
I don't know, I guess it worked out.
Yeah.
But it was a little more horrifying than this time around.
Sure.
I was just like, you don't know what you don't know, but you also know when things aren't going great.
Yeah.
But it ended up being okay. Yeah.
What would you say have been like the biggest positive changes that you've noticed since moving it from Puyallup up to SeaTac here?
A lot more like support. I mean, I love the fairgrounds. It's like rustic charm. You know,
Totally.
it's the fairgrounds. So it's like, you can't hate it. But it's a big, huge kind of cavernous space.
Yeah.
So I think it's a little more intimate here, a little more cozy. There's the hotel's right here, so if you're staying.
That's nice.
Flying in is a breeze for people coming from out of town.
Yeah.
The light rail's right there. So public transport-wise, like
I
if
didn't
you're
even think
taking...
about that. That's a good call.
It's great. So
Yeah.
I think it's a little more accessible for folks, which is what we really like. We've moved both of our fests to the Seattle area too, which is good and bad. Like, ideally, in my dream world, we'll stay here for a couple of years because SeaTac loves having us here.
I'm sure.
And we love the love. But I'd love to move it to like Vancouver or Spokane or Bellingham.
Oh, like bump it around,
like every
you think?
few years. Mostly
That's a cool
because it's
idea.
like every year would be just challenging logistically.
Love that idea.
Yeah.
But I think that would be really fun.
Like
And-
every 2 years, bump it to like another sort of like centralized beer
somewhere
community.
like taking an airplane ride.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or-
come and experience what this like region has to offer, and like
Which
you
is
know,
what we should be doing. It's like, things are easier in Seattle because it's
pretty
a
central.
big city and then there's an airport, yada yada yada.
Right.
But like that's not our whole state.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know?
I like that.
That's-
It's like what
I-
CBC does.
Take it to Twisp.
Take it to Tacoma.
Take it to
Tacoma.
Tacoma.
Tacoma? Like Cuomo? What am I saying?
that might be a new like Tacoma bucket list thing is to be worthy of the Craft Brewers Summit.
Tacoma
someday.
Dome, baby.
or the conference.
There's so many
Tacoma.
spaces.
There is. Yeah.
It could work there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
We'll talk.
Let's talk. Let's get a petition.
Yeah, let's get a petition going. I do love that. I also love that your scope is dialed out far enough where that's like a consideration. Is like I don't want the like entire representative like community of Washington to be sort of dictated by one small chunk of it, perception wise. And I love that. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's easy to kind of like be like, well, we always do it here. Let's, I think it's okay to be like, well, just because it's always been this way doesn't mean it always has to be this way.
Totally.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like,
Change is good.
yeah, some people, it'd be nice to not have to travel so far for the people in Spokane or Bellingham or whatever.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, Spokane will be legit.
Spokane would be great.
It
Or
would be legit.
Yakima.
Yeah, dude. Or Yakima's actually a good call.
That'd be really fun. Because
Yeah.
you have to drive, but it's okay. It's not that far, and it's
Yeah.
a gorgeous drive. You
Yeah.
just can't do it during this time of year because the pass can be
That's true.
hit or miss. So you kind of have to be like maybe a different time of year, which isn't impossible.
It's up to you now.
Oh,
These are rules that you make.
I'm the boss.
That's right.
I do have a board to answer to,
I guess that's true.
but I guess if I persuaded them enough, my acting skills.
Did you visit your other board last month in Denver?
Yes, we had a board meeting there too. Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. It was during JBF week, which is mighty big ask. No, it was actually really easy and fun and not a big deal at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of exciting stuff happening. So,
Yeah? Anything you can share in terms of exciting stuff?
I mean,
Or just positivity in general?
Just like positive in general. Just like, organizations kind of looking at the future and seeing where they can go and like looking at people and what they want and need and how they can best support breweries and home brewers. And
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of exciting stuff that's coming down the line.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there's kind of like a general refocus of the industry right now?
I think so. Like
Yeah.
it's funny because like looking at I have like different focuses like as like home brewers and then like statewide and then
Yep.
like nationally. It's kind of interesting to see how a lot of those trends are the same and sometimes a little bit different here than they are in like just generally speaking in the country.
Yeah.
But I think everyone's kind of reevaluating like because of market conditions.
Totally.
And just like what people are into and just to see how like who do we align with? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, who can we speak to?
we've always had like a, David and Goliath thing. So it's like, is that still the case?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I don't know.
Yeah.
There's always a
If it-
Goliath. It's a great story.
If it is, there's multiple Goliaths these days, I would
so many
say.
Goliaths. But there's a lot of Davids. There's more Davids.
That is true. That's true. That is a positive thing.
Yeah.
And a general refocus is like, it is kind of coming at like a time where the industry is like, like we maybe all feel focused to sort of or we feel forced to focus on the types of things that people are looking for out of the craft beer community and the industry. But that ends up being kind of a positive thing, as long as you have people who are like community driven and are willing to like you dial the scope out a little bit and make sure that we're not just speaking to one group or to certain groups and speaking to everybody. And what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, exactly. Speaking to everyone, let other people's voices be heard that maybe have always been kind of silenced or like not heard before. Or like Dr. J said, and you've said this before too, about talking about experiences. It's not just about drinking beer. It's about like what else is there along with beer, right?
Exactly.
They exist at the same time.
Yes.
Did you make it out to Win Coop when you were there?
Are you going where I think you're going with this?
Yeah. Beer drinker of the year.
2016, baby. No, I didn't. Okay. Actually,
so you got free beer for life.
I do. Yeah. I bought the card at Win Coop Brewing.
I did not know this. What?
2016. There's like this little, I don't think they do it anymore. It's like a little competition.
Yeah.
And I competed against these two dudes. And they just ask funny questions and like get to know like general brewing stuff, blah, blah, blah. I won.
Dang.
So I get free beer for life at Win Coop Brewing.
That's incredible.
Since 2016?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't really taken advantage of it that often. But
boy, I would be covering my whole flight.
I mean, I should just like taken the flight light rails directly to Win
Totally.
Parachute in.
Yeah.
Do you have like an ID card that says who you
Yeah.
are?
I don't have it on me. It would be funny if I had it on me.
Dude, that should be in your lanyard. What
It
are you
should be.
talking
I
about?
just walk around and be like, don't even have my name on it, just as beer drinker.
Yeah, yeah.
2016. 8
So
years
sick,
ago.
dude.
Nice. Yeah, it is in my wallet though. It's laminated.
Should you need it?
It's
They gave it to me laminated.
That's
It's like a heavy
amazing.
lamination. It's not like a credit card, but it's like a 0.5, not 0.3.
Well,
Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
How did this not come up before?
I don't know how you even found out about that. You sleuthing is out of control.
Yeah.
It is.
Ron Nardwar
is.
Swarner.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm proud of you. That's funny. My husband, that's the proudest he's ever been of me.
Right.
He still
come
tells
on.
people about it. Yeah. He's like, yeah, you gave birth to 2 kids, whatever. You were beer drinker of the year 2016.
Nothing.
He welled up, like one tear fell down his face when you called him afterwards. Like,
He was
baby,
there.
I did it.
He saw it happen.
Oh, he saw it?
Oh, yeah. He saw the whole thing. I had to do like a talent portion. Guys,
Oh my God, what was
this
your talent?
is so embarrassing. Well, I thought about a lot of different things, and I decided to go with air timpani. You're like boom, 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 da na na na. So the music started playing, and I did a little mime, like I was, and people were like, "Okay, what the fuck?" And then I started doing it, and then they're like, "Oh my God, she's doing air timpani," and it was like a confusion and then hilarity. But
Sure.
when I was practicing
It was 2001 Space Odyssey, right?
yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, Ron.
You're good. That's a great movie.
It is.
As it was, I did like a practice run, and my sister was there, and my father-in-law for some reason.
Well, it was a family event.
It was a family event for the rehearsal at my apartment.
Was his name Hal?
I wish.
Yeah.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal. They both were like, after I did it, they both were like, "Do you have anything else you could do?"
Wow.
Like they were, I could tell in their eyes, they were like, "Oh no!" And I was like, "That's all I got. I got to walk out the
You
door."
showed
right now.
them.
Okay, so
Yeah.
this is like a planned event. I was thinking like you're in the tap room drinking, and they were like, "Hey, who wants to come on
It was
stage?"
like a-
No, it was like a.
Yeah.
There was like 150 people watching it.
That's
It was
insane.
crazy.
I
Yeah.
really like that air timpani was your prepared talent.
That was my
too.
prepared talent, and people didn't know what to do with it. They were,
Dude.
It was wild to see people's faces.
What
That's
were,
amazing.
What
That's
were the other
Austin level
talents
shit.
that didn't win?
Someone did some poetry.
Poetry?
Yeah, great, loved it, and I think one was a song,
You're like, no, I got this.
Yeah.
and I was like, "Watch out, guys!" I somehow went last too.
Oh
They somehow
my
knew.
God.
They knew. They were
You
like,
closed the show
they
with
were
air
like, "That
timpani.
woman has something strange."
That's so awesome.
She's
Yeah.
going last.
So,
Oh my God. I don't think I'll ever achieve anything that cool. That's
yes,
so
you
rad.
will. Just
Next year,
make it happen.
you should do Beer Drinker of the Year here at
Here.
the Summit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, done. Sponsored by Green Grain.
Yeah.
Yeah, who's buying beers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The sponsorship level can be whatever you want it to be.
Perfect.
We'll bring a monolith.
As long as you're
At Air
listening.
Tiffany booth.
Yeah.
You're like, this is going to work out great.
We get a corner booth.
I have
my
to run
God.
upstairs.
Yep.
I know this is a terrible thing to say on mic, but I have to go check on the speakers upstairs.
Do you?
Because I told them I'd be back up there before 3 o'clock.
No problem. We know how crazy busy you are. Thank
Do you want
so much for
Daniel to
hanging
come
out.
by
so
and
much
say
for
hi?
joining us.
What's up?
Do you want Daniel to come by and say hi?
Daniel. We have
That's a no. You don't know.
Colin's.
who it is.
Well, yeah. Colin's hanging out for
Good.
a minute too. Actually.
Okay.
In a
Yeah,
few.
we got someone
Great.
coming
Yep.
up.
I love
Thank
you guys.
Yeah.
We love you too.
Thank you for being here.
Love you.
Yep.
Enjoy.
And Shawna.
Don't
Bye.
trip.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. I know.
My cheeks hurt. She's so funny.
I know. If only she was more likable. Jesus. Well, that's probably a perfect time for a quick break. We're going to refill some beers real quick and then grab a couple other familiar faces that you guys might recognize, at least one, and we'll be back. So hang out during the break. We'll see you in a minute.
Hello, Channel 253 listeners. This is Eric Hanberg, your host of the Citizen Tacoma podcast.
And producer Doug.
Sound producer Doug, I understand that you recently turned to Pod Auntie Marguerite for real estate matchmaking advice.
I did, and not just because she's a great friend, but because she's a sterling professional, and she knows the market, and she knows the people who operate in this market.
That's right. She can help you find a particular agent who knows their things, whether it's condos, whether it's, waterfront, undeveloped property, north end, whatever. It's not that she's the one who's going to do it. She knows the right person for every single kind of transaction.
Yeah, and when you say she's a matchmaker, that's right, because she will match you with a personality that you can easily work with and aligns with your values.
Absolutely. And you can find out more about Pod Auntie Marguerite at movetotacoma.com, and she will make that referral. It costs nothing to you, and you can know that you get a great real estate agent professional who can help you do what you want to do if you are moving to Tacoma or within Tacoma.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for hanging out during the break. As always, a shout out to Doug, our wonderful producer,
Yay, Doug!
who's here on the road with
Cheers.
us, making us sound awesome at the Craft Brewers Conference, and to Chris for putting us on video. Thank you so
Thanks,
much,
Thanks,
man.
Chris.
Yeah, so we have, actually, I have new beer. I'm going to pour this right now. And we also have a new guest for our second half. Ron, who are we talking to, man?
It's Colin.
It's Colin.
Hi.
Just Colin.
I've been here before. I know you guys.
You guys might recognize this guy.
He's got a new job, too.
I know.
Yeah.
So last time Colin was on, he was slinging Skagit Valley malts.
Yes.
And so what are you doing now, man?
I work for a yeast company that it's basically two different yeast companies. We have a dry yeast company called Pinnacle Dry Yeast, and then we also have just recently merged and acquired and merged with Omega Yeast, which I think some of the listeners may be familiar with.
Totally.
It's a big liquid yeast provider out of Chicago. They're really known for pushing R&D forward. They do a lot with GMO yeast, right? So using CRISPR and things like that to get rid of ALDC expressing enzymes and things like that, and thiolized yeast for all the hopheads out there. So yeah, that's what I'm doing now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's exciting. It's kind of it's interesting too that you went from one raw ingredient to the other, man. That's just your side, dude.
Yeah, I'd say it is my side. I really, we were talking about this the other day. Is like, I think a lot of people are built for the beer side. I think the further I got into raw ingredients, the more I liked it. I found that I really like talking with brewers. I like drinking with certain bar owners, though. But I definitely like talking with brewers and dealing with brewers. Science of it's fun, and the commoditization on some of the side of it. It's really neat to sort of watch all that occur. And so it's been neat solving problems of brewers, especially in the market that we're in right now.
Totally.
Yeah.
And before all that, you were sales with...
I was sales with Country Malt Group. So that was so it was CMG before that. And then I worked for 21st Amendment Brewing. And then before that, I was a local boy in Tacoma and covered for Wingman Brewers way back in the day.
That's right.
And then Seven Seas Brewing Company.
Seven Seas, yeah.
So worked for the Mike Runyon. As I think I brought up on the last show.
Yep.
Mike Runyon. So yeah. So it's been a really weird thing. I was thinking about it the other day, and I was like, I've been doing this for 15 years. My hair's getting gray, and I'm getting old, and I have to stop drinking every so often to remember that I don't need to feel like crap all the time.
Yeah.
Are you going into water next?
No,
Okay.
God, no.
I know.
Well,
That's the next logical step.
I'd go into water before I would go for those crooks from the hop companies. I can tell you that. I have a lot of
You're
friends
totally
in the-
not
I know,
outnumbered
right?
here. I know.
I do.
Ricky's ears just perked up.
I got a couple of really good friends in the hop industry, and I always joke around about them. But I'll tell you when the heat dome occurred a couple years ago, and we saw this big raw ingredient increase, and it happened in malt. Spencer Ticklemeyer from YCH really took me to task at the fact that when the malt company raised their prices, nobody said anything. But when hop companies raise their prices, people riot in the streets, right? So it's fun. It's fun stuff.
A fair back and forth.
Yeah, right.
I've joked plenty about people trying to price control like the supply side of the industry.
Yeah.
Probably going to be one of the things that makes it really tough for all of us.
I think it's gonna get interesting. I mean, luckily, right now, I think from the raw ingredient and the wholesaler side, I think as we're watching, breweries are closing, which I think was going to happen. 9,500 in the country is tough, and I think nobody wants to race to the bottom with their products. Clearly, I mean, it's all business, but I think one of the things that's been really interesting to see from our perspective is more and more of these vendors that you're seeing here are really stepping up to try to figure out how to be problem solvers with the brewers, right? How do we squeeze every dollar out of every barrel we can to ensure that people stay open, that jobs stay in the industry, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of really great brewers right now who are unemployed, and like nobody wants to see that, right? So it's really felt like while we're all in competition with each other in some way, on the raw ingredient side, at least, there's a lot of talk and a lot of collaboration between companies, because we definitely have a vested interest in ensuring that all these brewers stay open and alive and healthy in the long run, even if we're in a little bit of a downturn right now.
Sure.
Yeah.
Where are you living now?
I live in Atlanta, Georgia. So moved from as about as far away from Washington as you could. From there originally, I have family there, and I was gonna move to Chattanooga, Tennessee with one of my best friends. But my sister looked at me and goes, if you move up there with him, you can watch his kids grow up and not your own nephews. And so I got guilted into moving directly.
Yeah,
to Atlanta. So
it's a smoking gaslight there, dude.
But it's good for me, and I travel 80% of the time for work right now. We were working on building Pinnacle, which was the dry yeast brand when we acquired and merged with Omega. So I was the first sales rep. I covered all of North America as my territory.
Jesus.
And I don't know if you know this, but that's big.
That's a lot. I complain so much about Western Washington.
I was
Especially such a bitch.
I was on the road 42 out of the 50. How many weeks are in a year?
52.
42 out of 52 weeks last year.
Jesus.
So this hotel feels like home.
This is actually this is Hilton. So I have already hit the top status tier for Marriott this year. So now I'm working on hitting the top status with the Hilton brands. But 156 nights in Marriott's.
Oh my God, dude.
I forget how many miles I've flown this year, but it is a lot.
So many tiny soaps.
It's great. It's great because I never have to pay for shampoo again.
Yeah.
The TSA doesn't like how I sneak it in.
That's
anyway.
insane, dude.
So you're repping both brands, so Pinnacle and Omega.
Yep.
What? Obviously, the main difference between the two yeasts is one's dry and one's liquid.
Yeah.
But yeah, what else? What else can you tell us about the two?
Well, so I think with a dry yeast brand, our parent company is Associated British Foods, and so that is a company that owns Twinings Tea and Ovaltine, and a fast fashion brand apparently, not fast fashion and
Beer.
Matt Storm's
I was like, wait a minute.
Keys deal, not that one. Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Well, Stormboat, not that, but
Ovaltine?
an actual fast fashion brand. But they also in Fleischmann's bread yeast, and so that's sort of where they got the idea. And they've been providing Scotch whiskey liquid yeast. They call it cream yeast, which is the grossest thing I have to say.
That is
cream yeast is not a fun thing to say.
Yeah, my beehole just clenched a little bit when you said that. I was like, it's kind of weird.
It's not great. But so they've been doing that to the distillers forever, and so the dry yeast. Manufacturing is, especially for brewer's yeast, because brewer yeast specification is really, really, it's very high quality you have to hit, right? Because you can't have any microbiological organization or contamination inside of it. So with dry yeast, we built a 40 million pound, because it's British, facility in the UK. I'm actually heading over there in 2 weeks to go see it.
Whoa.
And so we're going to produce some pretty mainstay yeast out of that. It's a sterilization plant, super nice, state-of-the-art, best in the world right now. And so primarily with dry yeast, brewers like to use that as sort of these, they're sort of workhorses, really less, it's a little bit less expensive. And also, if you're doing something with a big hop load for like a double IPA or big, triple dry hop deals, right, where the hop particulates are going to get in and mess with the yeast deal and you want to dump it, it's a very cost-effective way to do that.
Yeah.
What we're doing with Omega, what Omega does, which is really, really cool, is it's really, really big on innovation. It's all liquid. So it's a little bit more expensive, but the quality is even higher. There's usually with liquid because you're not having to go through a drying process and introduce air or anything like that. They're really, really pushing the envelope in terms of what yeast can do, right? I mean, when I talk about, we all know diacetyl is not something we want in our beer. So what they've innovated is using CRISPR and GMO to get rid of the thing that creates diacetyl is an enzyme called ALDC, and the genes in the yeast actually express that. So they've just clipped that out and replaced it with something else, right? Mm-hmm. So now you don't have to worry about that enzyme creating diacetyl, right? So how much time does that save brewers, right? How much money does that save brewers, right? Same thing with these thiolized yeast strains that we're using that really, really create these huge tropical fruit aromas from the thiols. So we're really getting to, take a look at this from a one-two punch kind of deal. You got your workhorse yeast that brewers can use, especially if they're looking in a cost-saving phase. Mm-hmm. And then you've got this liquid yeast that really we can push this R&D innovation for. And sometimes the brewers prefer the liquid yeast over using something like that. And the juice is worth the squeeze.
That was clever, you son of a bitch.
But yeah, so it's been that's sort of the two-prong approach that we're going to use over there for launching into the market.
That's awesome.
I think there's such a use for both, because also with the dry, the shelf life is amazing. So if stuff goes wrong in the brewery and you don't have your liquid yeast or whatever for brew day, or your batch, whatever you're harvesting from, you can always have a backup of like the dry.
Totally,
the
right?
The workhorse, dry yeast.
Yeah,
so.
well, when we open up a new sales position, I'll come bring you in. You've already got the sales
cool.
position.
Yeah. Right? That's half of the pitch right there.
Right,
it's like...
yeah. I know.
In your suitcase.
Yeah. Also, you just
traveling.
made a pun. I don't know if you know, but it's half the pitch because it's a yeast.
Didn't even mean to do that. No. Thanks for giving me credit.
Yeah. So
I am curious. So you mentioned CRISPR and GMO and stuff, and obviously, like, there are a lot of folks who kind of reel back a little bit when they hear that sort of thing. Do you get those kind of objections in this industry when you present these ideas? And if so, how do you kind of overcome that stuff?
Somebody over there in the corner, the engineer is rolling his eyes a little bit. Okay, right. Yeah. It's actually way less than you think. What's interesting is that the only people that really will not touch it are some people that you may not think, and it's anybody that is really sold internationally. Because selling into Europe, selling to the UK, they have got very strict guidelines on what that sort of stuff can do. So I actually hit some resistance for some folks that I didn't think I would, just because it's really going to affect what they can and can't sell in. For the most part, it's not so much of an issue. There's several states where it doesn't work as well. We found that we're working a little bit with Freem, and Freem is a little bit concerned about some pushback that may come out of the Portland market, because that may be an issue in certain markets like that, right? But
surprise.
Clearly, right? But if I'm selling into Mobile, Alabama, I don't think they're going to care as much down there, right?
Sure.
We do sell into Mobile, Alabama, but it's the point being is that it's sort of what the culture inside each individual city sort of pushes and what they believe. The thing about GMOs, I think they get a really, really bad rap because of, for sure, some of the things that occurred with some of the larger, seed vendors, things like that, and some, pretty predatory practices on farmers. And then also sort of this Cronenberg-style fear of what sort of hideous monstrosities are we going to make. But ultimately, GMOs are a good thing in my book, right? If we can feed more people, if we can get rid of these things and save money, that's sort of what we want to do, right? There's, I think the big case for it is that there was not on the beer side, but just in general, is there's a fungal infection for rice, right? And they can breed this rice using CRISPR that gets rid of the gene that would actually open up to that fungal infection. And that will save, millions and millions of pounds of rice that's produced every year for Asian countries, and it's going to get rid of potential starvation, right? So these GMOs are a good thing. I think it's important that we regulate because there's a lot of regulation that goes on, and there's a lot of, definitely, we're having to check some boxes, but that's a good thing. And then everybody can feel pretty good about it. But I think it's pretty cool and what science can do. But I'm also a big proponent of like full-on steroids in all sports, so I can just see freaks of battle now. So I may be biased, right? So, yeah.
I've actually never considered the relationship between those two things, but that's valid as well.
That's what I want to see. Just like behemoths, just really getting after
This is the
it.
best era of baseball.
Yes, 100%. Yes.
If Mark McGuire was still playing.
They couldn't put their arms down. That was incredible. They just walked around like John McCain all the time, but they were slamming balls. Came out. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail this, but yeah.
No, you didn't. We're still on track.
Yep.
You're good. And this is me sober, which is weird.
Guys, I know. Well, next time you're in town, we'll buy you a couple extra beers.
That sounds
Hang
good.
out for a little longer.
We'll do it at the Parkway Tavern where they serve liquor now.
I know. You heard about that?
Oh, I've heard about it. It is. Look, even all the way in Atlanta, it's the talk. It's the talk of the town. So,
Dude, seriously.
It's a thing.
I know.
It's a thing.
Everybody knows.
I imagine it's been since Prohibition that they have, since liquor has come out of that building.
Yeah.
And it's not bathtub hooch anymore.
Yeah.
Colin, thanks so much for hanging out.
Absolutely.
It was amazing to see you.
I miss
Nice
each
to
and
see
every
you.
one of you very,
Yeah.
very much.
It's
Same.
so rad that you're in
See
town
you
right
some
now.
more.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Yep.
Cheers.
Love you, buddy.
Bye.
I'll see you, man.
Bye.
John McCain slamming balls. It's going to stick with me, that one.
I know. That's a total soundbite.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll come and see you. We have one more tagging in, actually. Yeah, good timing. Had to get a beer refill.
Hang in there, listeners. He's coming. He's coming.
Is there more Friendsgiving left in there?
Yep.
That is so
Little
good.
bit.
Holy cow.
Maybe after I pour some. Yes. Hi, John.
Hey guys,
Bethany, who are we talking to right now?
John Mendrick.
John Mendrick with Country Malt Group.
Country Malt Group.
Who
What are
you
you
guys just
drinking?
heard Colin mention in passing, because he was with Country Malt back in the day as well.
I
Yes, he
forgot
was.
that. Yeah, he was there before Skagit
Uh huh.
with you guys.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I trained him. Gave him my former territories of Idaho and Montana back in the day. So
Okay.
still keep in touch. Good friends, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
that's good.
Now that he's over on the Yeast side.
Yeah.
The Yeast side.
We were we were frenemies for a while with it. He was with Skagit, but that's underwater now. So
Yeah. Now you can talk again.
we can talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I wonder, like, certainly there's like a raw ingredient rivalry between malt and yeast. I don't know. There has to be. At least when you get somebody like Colin who bounces between.
Yeah. No, he's a good dude. We like him.
For
We
sure.
like him, so.
Thanks for hanging out. You and I have actually
Anytime.
never met in person, but
No.
it's lovely to finally meet you.
Nice to meet you guys.
And I feel like
Yeah.
I keep hearing about you.
I live down in Gig Harbor area, so
Yeah.
I'm surprised I've not been on the podcast before, but I'm happy to be here now.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
We will bring you back when we have a full hour as well, as long as you're down to talk raw ingredients for an hour.
Sure. Just as long as you got the beer, I can talk all day.
Sweet.
We're good.
So can you talk about what you do at Country Malt?
Yeah, I'm a sales manager for Country Malt. I've been with the company about 8 years. Coming up on 8 years, I've covered a lot of different territories. Right now, I cover most of Washington, and then I cover California down to about L.A., Santa Barbara area.
Nice.
So, and then somebody else covers there down to the border. And oddly enough, we have about the same amount of customers. He has that same amount of customers in that little tiny window down there as I do for the rest of the state.
That's crazy.
Tells you how
California.
concentrated
Yeah,
it is
exactly.
down
California's
there.
so
Very
concentrated.
San Diego.
So altogether, I cover 700-800 accounts. And,
Holy smokes!
It's a lot of beer drinking.
Yeah.
A lot of sampling.
That's
It's
yeah.
good.
So okay, when I say accounts, I'm talking about one thing. What do you mean when you say accounts?
Breweries.
Breweries.
Stores. Yep.
So yeah, when I say accounts, I mean Ron.
What percentage of distilleries do you have versus
Oh,
breweries?
shoot. 1% or less? Yeah, it's not. It pales in comparison to breweries, for sure. For sure. But yeah, I mean, just like Ballard down there, you could just throw a stone and hit 2 or 3 breweries from any direction. So
Totally.
keeps me busy. On the road, heading to Sacramento tomorrow.
Are you?
Yeah.
Gosh, man. So how
many
the whole road
travel?
show?
How many hotels a year?
Shoot, well over 100, usually about 150 maybe.
You got all the points just like Colin does.
Yeah, oh God, yeah. It's the
Hotel
only way I
points.
can take my family on vacation. I just save up all the points and then we bust out a week or two for free. It's just
It's a good perk.
Yeah, I always tell people like that you got to consider that part of the pay package is those points.
True.
You know, for sure.
I'm never complaining about the size of my territory ever again.
Yeah, you just keep your mouth shut.
I know, dude. I'm like, I have to drive all the way to Linwood today.
Oh my
Such a baby.
Well, sometimes driving to Linwood can be more painful than flying across the country.
Okay, thank you. I also agree with
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like
Yeah.
any Washington listeners might agree.
What were you doing before Country Malt?
I had a homebrew shop, Mountain Homebrew, there in Kirkland, Washington. So I started that in 2000 and ran that 2017. So that was really, back then it was me and Pike Brewing or Liberty Malt Supply and a few others. So like all the breweries that you see in existence today, a lot of them started by coming to see me for a bucket and a homebrew starter kit.
Nice.
The guys from Georgetown are my pride and joy. Like I remember Manny always coming through the door with, working on his Manny's Pale Ale recipe.
Sure.
And buying the ingredients. And several people in the room here, former customers. So it feels really good. It's like I always tell people it's like that kindergarten teacher that you see that successful adult later in life and
Yeah.
you're like, I remember you when you were this big. Oh, so cute.
You were brewing 5 gallons at a time.
I remember when you were asking me all about hydrometers and dry yeast.
What's a
Look at you
gravity?
now.
Yeah.
You got $5 million worth of brewing equipment.
I know.
You went crazy.
Look at you.
Georgetown is a good example.
Yeah.
Biggest brewery in Washington right now.
Were you buying malt from Country Malt then when you were home?
Yeah, it was.
homebrew
We
shop.
sold a lot of Great Western, which is our company, and they had a homebrewing segment of their business called Brewcraft back in the day. So they were a major homebrewing supplying vendor. Since gone, but yeah. So it was kind of when I found out about that, this opportunity, this job after that, I knew a lot of the people already. I was like, I would be perfect for your job. I know everybody there. So here we are.
That's how you jumped in. You're like, I can
Kinda.
totally do this.
I was at a homebrewing conference for Brewcraft, and I was just talking to their manager. That I was thinking about closing the shop at that point, and he's like, they had just opened my position that I applied for. And he's like, I applied that night, went home, and,
Wow.
applied that night for sure, and it happened. So it was good.
Dang.
Yeah, that was good.
Easy transition.
Well, yeah, I mean, you own a small business, and you always worried it's as you get older too. Like, if this fails, I don't want to be that old angry guy at Home Depot. You're like, what am I going to do? Because I've worked for myself
Jesus.
for 17 years. Like, most people wouldn't want to hire
I used
a
to work at Home
person
Depot.
that's. Yeah, but most people would be reluctant to hire someone that's only worked for themselves. I'd only ever worked for myself. My whole almost working. Like, why would you? This guy's going to come in and think he owns the place, but it was a great transition.
Yeah.
Great company to work for us.
Actually, never thought about that.
I've never had an interview.
What?
I've never had a job interview.
Jesus, Ron. That's kind of amazing.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Isn't that
Yeah.
crazy?
He's been in business for himself the whole time.
Well,
Would you
I know
hire you?
know.
What?
Like,
Would you hire you?
yourself?
Oh, yeah.
I would too.
Thanks.
No red flags.
I would too. And Country Malt is the sponsor, right, here
Yep,
today?
presenting sponsor. We've been the presenting sponsor since the inception of this summit.
That's awesome.
Which is how many years now? I should have asked Shawna when she
on the spot. I'm going to say 5 years now, maybe.
This is the 5th.
But in the inaugural year, they approached us. They were trying to get this thing off the ground. They were trying to mimic it really after the CCBA down in California. I remember Pam and Annie back in the day were going down to those conferences to try to figure out how they wanted to put this thing together, and then they approached Country Malt. We were always a big guild sponsor. I think it's really important to sponsor the guild, and they approached us, and I went to bat for them from my company, and my company said yes, and so here we are 5 years later, still doing the presenting sponsorship.
That's amazing. And now it's kind of growing. It's kind of graduating to a new venue, and
it's morphed just as any other industry event is right now.
Sure.
You see shrinkage, but you also see new folks and new faces, and there's still. I talked to a lot of breweries, 700-800, like I said, and there are still some shining bright spots of optimism out there and growth, and I think we're at a level now where everything's going to start to stabilize, and I think things are going to be positive again. We'll see. Not what they were; they'll never go back. But I think we're starting to trend in the right direction.
That's good.
Yeah.
And it's kind of there's a little bit. I mean, that tone kind of has been consistent, even just for the hour we've been hanging out here. Is like, things are changing, and it's kind of hard to tell what's going on. But you work with nearly 1,000 different brewers, and I'm sure that you see like you said, there's bright spots, and there's enough to kind of give you hope for the future of the industry in a way.
Oh, of course, yeah. 2 years ago, especially coming right during and coming out of COVID, I would have told you a different narrative right there. There was a lot of doom and gloom. Visits to customers were often very difficult. A lot of sad faces, and you could tell just like this guy or gal is struggling. You could just see it on their face. They look tired.
Just beaten to death after 2 years.
But no, it's changed. The tone has definitely changed, and in the right direction. Like I said, I think we're at a new level where we're going to be for a while. And California and Washington are very, very similar as far as how the markets behave.
I was actually just about to ask you about that.
Very, very similar markets, very similar mindsets of customers, brewers, but for some reason, Oregon's right there in the middle, and it's its own thing. And Oregon is struggling more than either of Washington or California right now.
I just saw a couple of sales reports for Oregon breweries, and I think there's of the ones I saw, there was like 3 breweries that were in the green year over year.
I'm not sure why Oregon. Maybe it is the economics of the state. There's probably, it's less wealthy, maybe. That could have something to do with it down there.
Sure.
But for some reason, Oregon's kind of its own island right now in the West. So
interesting.
Just my perspective on things.
Wow. If they would just chill out about GMOs, maybe things would be totally different.
Right?
I'm kidding, Portland. We love you. Keep listening.
I love you too.
You guys do a lot of cool things. I don't know if you call it like a recycling program or what, with like used grain bags and spent grain and everything. Can you talk a little about that?
Yeah, sure. We launched a trial program out of our Vancouver distribution center to recycle our bags, which are apparently the material that is used in those polywoven bags is extremely difficult to recycle. And so we did find a partner down there that we would work with so that breweries within a certain radius, or anybody can bring it down, but I mean, it's not practical for Bellingham or Seattle to just bring your malt bags down. But within that 100-mile radius down there, brewers can bring their bags to us, and then we'll recycle them. And then they actually take that material, they shred the bags, and then they sell it back to the company that actually makes our bags. So it's kind of a full circle thing. And we are exploring launching that into the Seattle market here within the next year as well. Yeah, I'm working with a company called Recyclops, and
that's a sick name and a great reference.
Yeah. Shout out to Recyclops, I guess. But I mean, they'll recycle your grandparents if you let them. They recycle everything, everything. If it can be recycled, they'll find a way to do it. And they have a very high interest in recycling bags.
Grandma's a malt bag now.
Yeah, Grandma's a malt bag.
I have a malt
Isn't that
bag.
a good song?
Yeah.
Or a good beer name.
Grandma was a malt bag.
But there's companies doing that too. Bountiful Bags does the used grain bags, and they make them in these really cool recycled bags. I have one. I want like 80.
I know. I wanted to make like a suit. I'm like, God damn, that would be one itchy suit.
Some really warm.
But it looked cool. I know. No breathing at all.
It'd be like waterproof.
It'd be totally waterproof.
You could put the inside material as like flannel or something.
Yeah, well,
Or like wool or
if you
something.
ever
Yeah.
seen
Yeah,
the
totally.
barman lady that comes over from Germany, have you ever seen her? She wears a malt bag dress.
Oh, really?
It looks,
Not.
I mean,
She
sorry.
needs to be on the podcast.
I know, it's amazing.
It just looks horribly uncomfortable, but
Yeah.
super cool.
And loud.
But for an event like this, though,
It's a bit scratchy.
Yeah. Not the most comfortable.
oh my God.
But I'm really hoping we get that program launched in Seattle because obviously for me, the Puget Sound market is where most of the bags end up. And most of them go to the landfill, and it's completely unnecessary. And I think we could get this program going. It's going to be a huge success.
Yeah.
I don't see why a brewery wouldn't want to participate in
Yeah,
it.
of course not. Yeah, just recirculating resources too within the industry. That's
Absolutely.
a huge deal.
Absolutely. I mean, end of the day, if you're not putting all those bags in your dumpster, maybe you save money on your garbage bill. I don't know.
That's something.
Yeah.
So, but it's the moral thing to do.
For sure.
For sure.
John, thanks so much for hanging out,
Yeah,
man.
thank you so
This has
much.
been like
Nice to meet
amazing,
you.
dude. It's like we're gonna drag you in here for a full hour
Yeah.
pretty
All right.
soon, just so you know.
Let's do it.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Love to come back.
Awesome.
Right.
All right.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, for sure.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Take it away, Ron.
All right, Grit and Grainers. Email us at cheers@gritandgrainpodcast.com with your comments, opinions, and suggestions for what to brew for this year's Washington Brewers Guild Winter Beer Fest, such as Fiberace I Know Words Winter Ale, Angry Carolers Ding Dong Flaming Bag Stout, Post-Holiday Depression Donut Dunkel, Jolly Holly Could Have Used a Warning Cream Ale, Cousin Eddie's Candle Carousel Catastrophe, and of course Sean's 12 Days of Fuck Up Barley Wine. We read and drink everything we receive, and we try to respond as fast as we can, if not online, then on air. You can subscribe to Grit and Grain on YouTube, Apple Music, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, and Stitcher. And please leave us a review. Also check us out on channel 253 and gritandgrainpodcast.com. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram for episode notes, beer news, and say it with me, very little divisiveness. Enough with useless and simple-minded black and white dualities, blue versus red, Dem versus Repub, good versus evil, salt versus pepper, Citra versus Mosaic, Pauly Shore versus Steven Seagal. Enough with ideologies that polarize and demean and reduce the gorgeous, messy, kaleidoscope complexities of the human drama into ignorant and childlike simplicities that contain no art or spirit or soul or HBC 472. If this podcast is not what you expected, please alter your expectations. Hey, Washington State Brewers, when will you open up a brewery in Federal Way? And if you do, will you name your brew Dick Bolt Chevrolet Backseat Bach? No such thing as a bad time to visit Tacoma.
I get
no
it.
Such thing. I know you would. No such thing as too much barley wine. Tune in next Friday for more sweet chatter. Cheers.
Cheers.
I ran across Dick Bolch's name and I thought, oh my God, there's a laugh from the past.
You got to put Dick Balch in.
Thanks again for tuning in. Don't forget to follow us at Grit and Grain Podcast wherever you get your social media and catch new episodes every Friday. Cheers.
Channel 253 is member supported. I'm producer Doug Mackey, and I hope you will show your support by going to channel253.com/membership and join. Thank you. Grit and Grain is part of the Channel 253 podcast network. Check out our other shows: Nerd Farmer, Interchangeable White Ladies, Move to Tacoma, Crossing Division, Citizen Tacoma, What Say You, We Are Tacoma, Flounders B Team, and Taco Man.
This is Channel 253.
Get up.